Have you ever looked at a cheap plastic trash can and thought about endless, infinite food? Probably not. But what if I told you that you could generate a completely unlimited supply of high-grade protein for just $5? No dirt is required, no sunlight is needed, and the entire system takes exactly 5 minutes to set up. Today, we are going to dive into a radical method of micro-farming that is changing the game for homesteaders, preppers, and off-grid enthusiasts all around the world. We are going to reveal a completely self-sustaining system that turns your everyday garbage into pure, usable energy. Stick around because the secret hiding inside this simple plastic bucket might just alter how you think about survival and self-sufficiency forever. Let me ask you this right now. What is your current backup plan for animal feed or protein in an emergency? Drop your answer in the comments below and let us get into it. To truly understand the power of this $5 setup, we have to look at the current state of the world. The cost of commercial animal feed, meat, and basic protein has skyrocketed to record highs over the last few years. Traditional farming requires vast amounts of land, thousands of gallons of water, and endless hours of back-breaking labour. But for decades, underground communities of self-reliance experts and progressive agriculturists have been utilising a completely different approach. They shifted their focus away from massive fields and heavy machinery and turned toward the incredible efficiency of micro-livestock. By mimicking the natural decomposition cycle found in wild forest floors, they discovered a way to breed specific protein-rich insects in confined, totally dark spaces. This method bypasses the need for arable land and sunlight completely. It is a biological loophole that allows anyone, anywhere, to produce massive yields of nutrition using nothing but the food scraps they were already going to throw away. Let us start by lifting the lid on what exactly is going inside this cheap plastic container. When you hear the words unlimited protein, your mind probably jumps to massive soybean fields or giant cattle ranches. But we are focusing on micro-livestock. Specifically, we are talking about the incredible black soldier fly larvae, or simple composting mealworms. Now, before you scrunch up your nose, you need to understand that these are not the annoying pests buzzing around your picnic. These specific creatures are nature's ultimate biological recycling machines. They do not carry diseases, they do not bite, and they do not even have mouths when they become adult flies. Their entire purpose in the larval stage is to eat as much as physically possible. They are tiny engines that convert useless waste into pure, high-grade protein. By cultivating them in a controlled environment, you are essentially harnessing a natural superpower. This is a method that professional off-grid experts and smart homesteaders have used for years to generate feed out of thin air. It is entirely safe, incredibly efficient, and perfectly suited for a small space. We are completely rethinking what agriculture looks like and shrinking it down to fit right in the corner of your room. Now let us break down the actual cost, because I promised you this would only take $5. You might think farming requires heavy investment, but that is a massive myth. The entire infrastructure for this unlimited protein farm consists of a simple, used plastic container. You can go to any local bakery, restaurant, or hardware store and ask for an empty 5-gallon frosting bucket or a small trash can. Most of the time, they will give it to you for free or charge you a couple of dollars at most. Add in a handful of screws or a piece of scrap wood, and your total investment is almost microscopic. You are not buying expensive soil mixes, you are not purchasing chemical fertilizers, and you are not paying for heavy grow lights. The beauty of this system lies in its absolute poverty-level barrier to entry. We are taking items that society considers garbage and repurposing them into a high-yield agricultural tool. Compare that $5 one-time cost to the hundreds of dollars you would spend every single month buying commercial bags of chicken feed or fish pellets. The financial return on investment here is absolutely staggering. One of the most mind-blowing aspects of this setup is the complete elimination of soil and sunlight. Every traditional crop you can think of requires a delicate balance of nutrient-rich dirt and perfectly timed sun exposure. But our protein farm operates on an entirely different biological wavelength. These larvae actually prefer the dark. In fact, direct sunlight can be harmful to them. This means you do not need a backyard, you do not need a greenhouse, and you do not need a south-facing window. You can easily hide this bucket under your kitchen sink, inside a dusty old garage, down in a gloomy basement, or tucked away in an apartment closet. Because there is no dirt involved, you never have to worry about weeds, soil-borne plant diseases, or tilling the earth. The sheer geographical freedom this gives you is unprecedented. Whether you live in a high-rise city apartment or a remote cabin in the woods, the lack of reliance on weather and soil means your protein production never stops. It is a completely weatherproof, season-proof food generation machine that operates 24 hours a day. Let us walk right through the 5-minute setup process because it is ridiculously simple. You do not need an engineering degree to build this. First, you take your clean plastic bucket or small trash can. You grab a standard drill, or even just a sharp knife if you are totally off the grid. You create a series of small ventilation holes around the top edge of the container to allow oxygen to flow in, because these hard workers need to breathe. Next, you poke a few tiny drainage holes in the absolute bottom of the bucket so that any excess moisture can escape. Finally, you take a piece of rough plastic, cardboard, or a scrap piece of wood and lean it against the inside wall of the bucket to create a simple ramp. That is it. Put the lid on and your farm is built. There are no complicated water pumps, no electrical timers, and no heavy machinery to calibrate. From the moment you pick up the bucket to the moment it is ready to receive its first residents, less than 5 minutes will have passed. This is rapid deployment agriculture at its absolute finest. Once your bucket is ready, you need to source your starter culture. You might be wondering where on earth you get these magical protein bugs. The easiest way is to spend a few dollars online to order a small cup of live larvae from a pet supplier or an insect farm. This is your seed investment. However, if you live in the right climate, you can actually attract them completely for free. By leaving a small container of slightly fermented corn or fruit out in the open, native black soldier flies will naturally find it and lay thousands of eggs. Once you have your initial population, you never have to buy them again. They will continuously breed, lay eggs, and multiply within your system. A tiny handful of a few hundred bugs will rapidly explode into tens of thousands of hungry workers within a matter of weeks. It is the ultimate compounding interest, but instead of money in a bank, it is living, breathing protein multiplying in your bucket. You only need to establish the colony once, and nature completely takes over the heavy lifting from that point forward. So, what exactly do you feed an army of millions of tiny mouths? The answer is the best part of this entire system. You feed them your garbage. These creatures are not picky eaters. They will happily devour potato peels, apple cores, coffee grounds, leftover rice, stale bread, and wilted lettuce. Everything that you would normally throw into a trash bag and send to a landfill is now premium fuel for your protein engine. They act as a hyper-efficient garbage disposal unit right inside your home. You do not have to buy special grain or expensive formulated feeds. You are simply taking the unavoidable waste generated by your daily life and routing it into the bucket. It is a completely closed-loop system. The food you cannot eat goes to the larvae, and the larvae turn that food into high-value protein. This dramatically reduces your household waste output while simultaneously generating a valuable resource. It completely flips the concept of garbage on its head. Trash is no longer a problem to be thrown away. It is a raw material waiting to be processed. Now let us tackle the biggest myth and the most common fear people have about this concept: the smell. It is totally natural to assume that a bucket full of kitchen scraps sitting in a warm garage is going to reek of rotting garbage. But here is the fascinating science behind why it does not. These larvae eat so incredibly fast that the food simply does not have time to rot. When you throw an apple core into the bin, thousands of larvae swarm it and consume it completely within a matter of hours. The foul odours associated with rotting food are caused by anaerobic bacteria slowly breaking down the organic matter over days and weeks, because our micro-livestock devour the scraps before those bad bacteria can even establish themselves. The rotting process is entirely bypassed. A properly functioning bin does not smell like a dumpster. Instead, it usually has a mild, earthy scent, very similar to fresh potting soil or a damp forest floor. As long as you do not wildly overfeed them, you can easily keep this system running without offending your own nose or your neighbours. Let us dive into the actual nutritional profile of what we are producing, because the numbers are truly astonishing. We are not just making a mediocre filler food, we are cultivating a nutritional powerhouse. These larvae are packed with essential amino acids, rich healthy fats, and incredible amounts of bioavailable calcium. In fact, dried larvae can contain anywhere from 35 to 45% pure protein. This makes them significantly more dense in protein than many cuts of traditional meat or soy-based feeds. They also possess a highly favourable ratio of calcium to phosphorus, which is absolutely critical for the bone health of the animals consuming them. When you compare the nutritional density of what comes out of this bucket to an expensive store-bought bag of commercial pellet feed, the bucket wins almost every single time. You are effectively operating a high-end supplement factory in your backyard. It is the absolute highest quality nutrition you can possibly provide to your animals, and you are producing it for pennies on the dollar. The biological life cycle of these creatures is what guarantees your unlimited supply, and it is a masterpiece of natural engineering. It starts as a microscopic egg, which hatches into a tiny, ravenous larva. This larva does nothing but eat and grow exponentially for a few weeks, molting its skin several times as it expands. It stores massive amounts of energy in its body, preparing for its final transformation. Eventually, it reaches a stage where its skin darkens and hardens. At this point, it completely stops eating, and its singular instinct is to find a dry, safe place to turn into a pupa and eventually a fly. The adults then emerge, mate, lay thousands of new eggs, and die within a few days, starting the massive cycle all over again. Because they lay eggs in such massive clusters, the population replacement rate is astronomical. For every single adult that matures, you can expect hundreds of new offspring to take its place. This rapid, explosive reproduction rate is exactly why the system is virtually impossible to deplete if you manage it correctly. Perhaps the most genius aspect of this entire operation is the self-harvesting mechanism. If you are farming traditional crops, harvest day is the hardest work of the year. But with our bucket system, the crop literally harvests itself. Remember that simple ramp we built during the 5-minute setup? That ramp takes advantage of the larva's natural instinct. When they enter that final dark pupal stage, they desperately want to leave the wet, active food zone to find a dry spot. They will naturally crawl to the edge of the bucket, find the ramp, and pull themselves all the way up. All you have to do is place a collection jug or a small pipe at the top of the ramp, leading to a separate dry container. The mature larvae will march right up the ramp and fall perfectly into your collection jar. There is no digging through dirt, no messy sifting, and no manual sorting required. You literally just walk up to your bucket, detach the clean jar full of pure protein, and walk away. It is an automated biological conveyor belt. If you are a homesteader raising backyard chickens, this setup is an absolute financial game changer. Chickens are natural foragers, and they are biologically wired to hunt for insects. When you toss a handful of these live, wriggling larvae into the chicken run, the birds will go absolutely crazy. It is their absolute favourite treat in the world, but it is not just a treat. It is a vital dietary upgrade. The massive boost in fresh calcium and pure protein directly translates to thicker, stronger eggshells and dramatically healthier birds. During the molting season, when chickens need extra protein to grow new feathers, this feed is literally a lifesaver. By replacing just 20 or 30% of your store-bought layer feed with your homegrown bucket protein, you will slash your monthly feed bill significantly. Over the course of a year, this $5 bucket can easily save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars at the feed store. It is the ultimate cheat code for profitable poultry. But we have to talk about the extreme survival aspect too, including human consumption. I know it sounds shocking to modern sensibilities, but entomophagy, or the practice of eating insects, is completely normal for billions of people around the world. In a true, grid-down, catastrophic scenario where grocery stores are empty and hunting game is scarce, this bucket becomes a literal lifesaver. These larvae are entirely safe for humans to eat when cooked properly. You can wash them, pan-fry them, roast them, or dehydrate them completely. Once dried, they can be ground up into a fine, highly nutritious flour that can be baked into breads or mixed into stews to provide life-saving calories and protein. While it might give you the shivers right now, knowing how to cultivate an endless supply of edible protein in a tiny space is top-tier survival knowledge. It is a completely silent, invisible food source that nobody else will know you have, ensuring you stay fed when traditional food systems collapse. Of course, every system has a learning curve, and we need to debunk some common beginner mistakes so you do not fail. The absolute number one error new micro-farmers make is creating a swamp. If you dump massive amounts of wet fruit, like an entire rotten watermelon, into your bucket all at once, you will introduce too much moisture. The larvae cannot breathe in standing liquid, and the bucket will go anaerobic and start to smell sour. But the fix is wonderfully simple. If your bin looks too wet, you simply toss in a few handfuls of dry brown carbon. Shredded newspaper, torn up cardboard boxes, or dry autumn leaves work perfectly. These dry materials act like a sponge, soaking up the excess moisture and restoring the perfect damp balance. On the flip side, if the bin gets too dry, you just add a splash of water or a juicy apple core. Learning to balance the moisture is a visual skill you will easily master within the very first week of running your setup. Once you witness the magic of your first 5-gallon bucket, you are instantly going to want to scale up. The beautiful thing about this method is that it is completely modular. Upgrading does not require new technology, it just requires a bigger container. You can easily transition from a small indoor bucket to a massive 50-gallon outdoor trash can using the exact same principles. You drill more holes, build a wider ramp, and start dumping in larger volumes of waste. A single 50-gallon system can process multiple pounds of food waste every single day, generating a staggering daily yield of fresh protein. Many small-scale farmers line up 3 or 4 of these large trash cans behind their barns to completely eliminate their reliance on commercial feed. Because the design is so incredibly basic, your expansion is only limited by how much food waste you can source. You can even partner with local grocery stores or cafes to take their vegetable scraps, turning community waste into your personal goldmine. Temperature management is another fascinating part of this living engine. Because there are thousands of larvae constantly moving, wriggling, and digesting, they actually generate their own metabolic heat. If you stick your hand near the center of a busy food pile, it feels noticeably warm, almost like a small biological furnace. This means that even if you keep your bucket in a chilly garage during the autumn months, the colony will keep itself warm enough to survive and continue eating. However, they do have their limits. In the dead of a freezing winter, you will need to bring the bucket indoors or insulate it to keep the process going. Conversely, in the blazing heat of summer, you must ensure the bucket is kept in the shade, as direct baking sun on a plastic bin will overheat and destroy your colony. Finding that perfect shady, ambient spot is the key to keeping your biological engine humming along at maximum efficiency all year round. Beyond just saving money and surviving, we have to recognise the massive environmental impact of running one of these buckets. Food waste is a catastrophic global problem. When organic matter goes to a standard landfill, it gets buried under tons of trash, where it breaks down without oxygen and releases massive amounts of methane, a highly potent greenhouse gas. By intercepting that food waste in your kitchen and routing it to your protein bucket, You are stopping that destructive cycle dead in its tracks. You are taking a pollutant and transforming it into a high-value biological asset. Imagine if every household ran a simple $5 bucket under their sink. The reduction in municipal garbage and harmful emissions would be absolutely staggering. You are not just being a smart prepper or a thrifty homesteader. You are actively engaging in one of the most effective, localized forms of environmental conservation available to a single person. When you directly compare this trash can protein to traditional sources like beef or commercial soy, the efficiency metrics are almost unbelievable. To produce 1 single pound of beef, it takes roughly 2,000 gallons of water, huge tracts of cleared land, and years of waiting. To produce 1 pound of bucket protein, it takes a few square feet of space, almost zero extra water, and just a few weeks of time, using food that was already considered waste. The feed conversion ratio is unparalleled in the animal kingdom. These larvae are so efficient that they convert almost all the energy they consume directly into body mass. There is no energy wasted on maintaining a complex skeleton or generating deep body heat. It is raw, unadulterated efficiency. In a world where resources are becoming increasingly scarce and expensive, clinging to massive land-heavy agriculture is becoming a luxury. This bucket represents the streamlined, hyper-efficient future of local food production. Now let us talk about the ultimate selling point for most people, the lazy factor. We all love the idea of farming, but the reality of pulling weeds at dawn and breaking your back with a shovel is exhausting. This system is the absolute pinnacle of lazy agriculture. Once the 5-minute setup is complete, your daily involvement is virtually zero. You do not have to water them, you do not have to prune them, and you do not have to weed the bucket. Your only chore is opening the lid and dumping your trash inside whenever you happen to have it. The larvae do 100% of the actual labour. They chew the food, they manage the breakdown process, and they even harvest themselves by walking up the ramp into your jar. You can go away on a weekend trip, leave them with a pile of potato peels, and return to find a jar full of fresh protein waiting for you. It is quite literally a set-it-and-forget-it food generation system that demands almost nothing from you. As if unlimited free protein was not enough, there is a hidden secondary bonus that makes this system even more valuable, the byproduct called frass. As the larvae aggressively consume your kitchen scraps, they leave behind a fine, dry, sandy material. This is their waste, known in the agricultural world as frass. And let me tell you, frass is liquid gold for your garden. It is an incredibly potent, entirely organic fertilizer, packed with beneficial microbes, chitin, and balanced nutrients. When you mix this dark material into your garden soil, or use it to brew a compost tea, your tomatoes, peppers, and houseplants will explode with vibrant growth. Furthermore, the chitin present in the frass naturally triggers a defense response in plants, making them dramatically more resistant to pests and diseases. So, from one single $5 bucket, you are harvesting premium protein for your animals on the top end and premium organic fertilizer for your garden on the bottom end. It is a dual income system. Let us summarize what your actual daily routine looks like once you embrace this method. You wake up in the morning, make your coffee, and prepare your breakfast. Instead of tossing the wet coffee grounds and the eggshells into the trash bin, you walk over to your $5 plastic bucket. You pop the lid off, toss the scraps directly onto the wriggling mass of activity, and snap the lid back on. Then you glance over at the collection jar sitting on the outside of the container. Inside you see a fresh handful of clean, perfectly mature larvae that crawled out during the night. You unscrew the jar, walk out to your chicken coop, and toss the wiggling protein to your wildly excited flock. The entire process takes less than 60 seconds of your day. You have spent $0, you have wasted zero food, and you have provided your homestead with top-tier nutrition. It is the ultimate manifestation of working smarter, not harder, and taking absolute control of your own resources. And there you have it, the ultimate paradigm shift in how we view food, waste, and survival. We took a simple plastic bucket that cost less than a cup of coffee and transformed it into a relentless, completely automated biological factory. We completely eliminated the need for heavy soil, we banished the requirement for sunlight, and we turned common household garbage into high-value, unlimited protein. Whether you are looking to drastically cut your feed bills for your chickens, prepare an invisible survival food source, or just produce the best organic fertilizer on Earth, this 5-minute setup is the absolute answer. It proves that true self-reliance does not require thousands of dollars or acres of land. It just requires a little bit of knowledge and the willingness to work with nature instead of against it. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If this revolutionary bucket system blew your mind, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and share this video with a fellow homesteader or prepper. Now, I want to hear from you. Are you brave enough to try setting up one of these bins in your own home? Or does the idea still creep you out? Let us start a massive discussion down in the comments section below.